Welcome to Cruise News, your daily update on everything happening at sea. Visit cruisenews.io to see today's stories and sign up for email alerts.
It is really great to be back for this deep dive. And today we're actually doing something a little different. Usually when we talk about cruising, we focus on the finished product, right?
We're at the glitz, the glamour.
Exactly. We talk about the buffet spreads or the pool deck parties,
Yeah.
the shore excursions.
The drink with a little umbrella in it.
Right. That's what we buy. That's the vacation.
It is.
But today we're going to kind of peel back the carpet and look at the massive industrial machine that actually makes all of that possible. Because sometimes that machine breaks.
Yeah, it does.
And sometimes it gets a complete overhaul in a shipyard. And sometimes it creates entirely new markets, literally out of thin air.
I love this angle for today's deep dive
Wow.
because you forget when you're floating on a luxury hotel that you're actually on a massive piece of engineering.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's floating in a really hostile environment. I mean, saltwater, wind waves. It's not exactly a gentle setting for a resort.
No, you really are at the mercy of the hardware. And we have 3 stories in our sources today that perfectly illustrate the life cycle of these vessels.
3 very different stages of life, too.
Exactly. We're going to look at a major emergency repair situation down in Australia involving a Royal Caribbean giant.
I'm a messy one.
Very. Then we'll head to the UK for a look at a planned, really detailed revitalization of a smaller classic ship. And finally, we'll look at a massive milestone in the Chinese market involving a ship that's only been in service for 2 years.
So our mission today is really to understand the nuts and bolts, like literally the propellers and the dry docks.
The physical stuff.
Right, and how those things directly dictate whether you as a passenger have the time of your life or whether you end up stuck in a port you didn't plan on visiting.
That's the plan. It's about friction, mechanical friction, operational friction, and how cruise lines try to smooth it out for you.
Okay, let's unpack this first story, because this is the one that every single cruiser fears. We are talking about Royal Caribbean's Anthem of the Seas.
A massive ship, a quantum-class vessel. We are talking over 4,000 passengers on board. It is a floating city.
And it's been in the news because things did not go according to plan. This is a situation where the machine definitely broke.
It did. This happened down in Australia. The Anthem had to cancel a scheduled sailing. It was a 10-night New Zealand trip that was supposed to leave Sydney on January 27, 2026.
So instead of taking passengers to the breathtaking fjords.
Right. Instead of that, the ship spent about 10 days sitting in Eden, Australia, undergoing emergency maintenance.
And for anyone who hasn't tracked this closely in the sources, this wasn't just a sudden oops the morning of departure, right?
There were signs.
Yeah, it was building up.
That's right. The trouble actually started on the previous voyage. The ship was sailing to New Caledonia and Vanuatu in mid-January. And guests on board started noticing that the ship just wasn't moving as fast as it should. The line officially called it a technical issue.
Which is the standard industry phrase for literally anything.
Whenever anything isn't working right, it's a technical issue.
Right. It covers a lot of sins. It could be the dishwasher or it could be the engine.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, passengers on board were reporting that it was propulsion-related, specifically regarding the azipods.
Okay, let's pause there, because for those who don't speak ship, an azipod is a podded propulsion unit.
Right.
Instead of a traditional propeller shaft running through the hull with a rudder behind it, the electric motor is actually inside a pod outside the ship.
Underwater.
Underwater, yes. And the whole pod rotates 360 degrees.
Which is why these huge ships can spin in circles and parallel park, basically.
Correct. It's incredible technology.
Mm-hmm.
But because the motor is underwater in a sealed unit when you have an issue,
Like a seal or a bearing.
right, maybe an electrical fault, you can't just send a guy down to the engine room with a wrench.
No, you need divers. You often need divers or heavy equipment, or you need a full dry dock.
So that previous cruise limped back to Sydney, arriving late, by the way. And Royal Caribbean realized they couldn't fix it in time to turn the ship around for the next voyage.
Just imagine being one of those 4,000 people waiting at the terminal. Or maybe you even flew into Sydney for this. It's a nightmare scenario.
It really is.
And this is where I really want to dive into the customer service side based on our sources. Because when the hardware fails, the guest relations has to step up.
So let's talk numbers. Because they didn't just say, sorry, what did the passengers actually get?
Well, first, obviously, a full refund.
Sure.
That is table stakes. You get back your cruise fare, taxes, fees, any prepaid packages. That brings you back to zero financially.
But you've still lost your vacation. You're sitting in Sydney with nowhere to go.
Exactly. So they also offered a 25% future cruise credit. an FCC. Basically a discount on your next trip.
25% seems standard.
It is fairly typical for a full cancellation close to departure. But here is where it gets interesting, and where some friction occurred based on the reports we're seeing.
The fine print.
Always the fine print. That credit came with a condition. It has to be used for a sailing departing within 1 year.
1 year. That feels incredibly tight.
It is tight. And the sources mentioned this specifically. Some guests felt that was logistically very difficult.
I mean, think about it. If you're an international traveler who flew all the way to Australia for this specific trip, you might not have the vacation time.
Or the budget.
Right, or the budget to plan another major cruise within 12 months.
Yeah, if you are planning a trip to New Zealand from, say, the US or Europe, that is a bucket list trip. It takes a year just to save up the vacation days.
You can't just reschedule that for next Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was some confusion, too. Some guests were reportedly told 2 years, but the official policy seemed to be 1.
Wow.
It just highlights how these terms and conditions really matter when things go wrong. A credit you can't use is effectively worth $0.
What about the out-of-pocket stuff? You mentioned people flying in. Did Royal Caribbean cover the flights?
They offered reimbursements, but with significant caps. And these numbers are really important to understand if you are a traveler,
Let's hear them.
because they show the limits of the cruise line's liability. For flight change fees, they offered up to $200 for domestic flights and $400 for international.
$400 for international. If I'm stuck in Sydney and I need to change my flight back to New York or London last minute, $400 might not touch the change fee, let alone the fare difference.
It likely wouldn't even come close.
Yeah.
Last-minute international fare differences can run into the thousands.
Ouch.
And for hotels, they capped it at $250 per stateroom for up to 2 nights.
Again, in a major city like Sydney during peak season, $250 gets you a room, but maybe not the luxury experience you're expecting on the ship.
Right. And they offered $100 per person per day for incidentals.
So they are putting some money on the table. But it's a stark reminder that travel insurance is probably a really good idea. Because the cruise line isn't insuring your whole life, just the part they control.
It's a financial reality check. The ship is a machine. Machines break, and the compensation is structured to limit their losses, not necessarily to make you whole for every inconvenience.
Well, the good news is the ship is back, right?
It is. It resumed sailing from Sydney, just recently heading up to Queensland. It's finishing out its Australia season until mid-April.
So whatever happened in that pod, they fixed it while they were sitting in Eden.
They did.
And then it's on the move after April.
Yes, quite a busy schedule, actually. After Australia, it repositions to Seattle for the summer 2026 Alaska season.
Okay.
Then it heads back to Sydney in November. So if you are booked on those Alaska cruises, you can rest easy knowing the repairs were done. The ship should be running at full speed again.
Good to know. So that's the emergency side of operations, the oh no, fix it right now side.
Distress.
Let's pivot to the other side of the coin. Planned perfection.
The art of the refit. This is when we take the ship apart on purpose.
Yes. We're moving from a giant Royal Caribbean ship to a smaller, much more classic vessel, Fred. Olsen's a Bolette.
A lovely ship. And the flagship of their fleet.
It just finished a 16-day stay at a shipyard in Falmouth, UK. And this wasn't an emergency. This was a spa day for the ship.
A very intensive spa day. And before we get into the carpets and the paint, I want to highlight something the sources brought up that we usually ignore.
What's that?
The economic ecosystem of these refits.
Right, because a ship in dry dock isn't making money for the cruise line, but it's generating a lot of money for someone else.
Huge amounts. This was Bolette's second refit at the APCL AMP Falmouth Yard. The project involved a team of 350 people.
Wow.
350.
Yeah, and specifically the reports mention over 40 apprentices were involved.
That is so cool. So your cruise fare is actually helping train the next generation of welders and marine engineers and outfitters in the southwest of England.
It really is. It sustains that local skilled labor. We often think of the cruise economy as just waiters and cabin stewards.
Like the hospitality side. But it's also pipe fitters and naval architects in places like Cornwall. Without these regular refits, those shipyards would really struggle to keep that talent pool active.
So what did those 350 people actually do? Because if I'm booking Bolette for this summer, what am I going to notice?
Well, let's start with the things you will see. The visible upgrades. They did a lot of work on the interiors. The big one for me, over 50 cabin bathrooms were renovated.
And that huge. There is nothing that dates a ship faster than a tired bathroom.
Pink tiles, rusty grout.
It totally kills the vibe.
It's the #1 complaint on older ships, so that is a direct quality of life upgrade. They also put new carpets in the main dining room and refreshed the observatory and the ocean bar.
Fresh carpet feels like a small thing, but it changes the smell and the acoustic feel of the whole room.
Completely.
And I saw in the source material they completely redid one of the restaurants.
Yes, colors and tastes. It's their specialty dining venue. It was fully redesigned with warm tones, new art. And interestingly, the menu is going to shift in 2026 to rotating international themes. Italian Asian grill. So they are updating the hardware now to match a software change coming later.
Smart. And what about entertainment? Did they touch the lounges?
The Neptune Lounge got a major tech boost. New LED walls and aerial performance structures.
Aerial structure. So we're talking people flying over the audience.
Exactly. It allows them to stage much more modern dynamic shows starting this June.
That's a great way to keep a classic ship feeling contemporary without losing its charm.
It is.
Okay, but you're the expert. You care about the stuff passengers don't see. What happened below the waterline? Because those 40 apprentices weren't just laying carpet.
No, they weren't. This is where it gets fascinating. They did the standard hull blasting and painting.
Which sounds boring.
It sounds boring, but biofouling, which is barnacles and slime, creates huge drag. A clean hull is basically free fuel efficiency.
It just slides through the water better.
Exactly. But they went a step further. They installed new, more efficient propeller blades.
New propellers, just for efficiency.
Yes. Propeller technology improves, just like phone technology. A better blade design means less cavitation.
Cavitation, that's the bubbling water, right?
Right, the bubbling water that causes noise and vibration at the back of the ship.
Oh, I hate that shaking when you're trying to sleep.
Exactly. So for the guest, the ship feels smoother and quieter. But for the cruise line, it means less fuel burn to go the exact same speed.
So it links directly to their environmental targets.
It does. Smooth sailing, a smaller carbon footprint,
Yeah.
and less shaking in your martini glass.
It's an invisible upgrade, but if those propellers work right, the passengers just feel nothing, which is the whole goal.
Precisely.
And where's Bolette off to now?
She's back in Liverpool. She's got a lovely spring and summer season planned, sailing to the Azores, doing the Norwegian fjords, including the Rama Railway, and some French and Spanish river cruises.
Sounds delightful. And honestly, right after a dry dock is the best time to book. Everything is fresh.
It really is. It's like buying a car right after it's been detailed.
So we've had the emergency repair, we've had the planned refit. Now I want to zoom way out. Because while we're fixing ships in Australia and the UK, there is a massive boom happening in China.
This is the third leg of our stool today. We are looking at Adora cruises.
And specifically, a ship called Adora Magic City, which is a great name, by the way. Very whimsical.
It is. This is China's first large, domestically built cruise ship. And the news from our sources is that it just hit a massive milestone, 1 million passengers.
In how long?
In about 2 years of commercial service.
Wow. That is a lot of people moving across the gangway in just 2 years. That ship must be running constantly.
It's incredible volume, and it's not just a lucky number. We have to understand this is a policy outcome.
Okay, let's unpack that. What do you mean by policy outcome?
The Chinese government, specifically the Ministry of Transport, has been explicitly pushing to expand domestic travel and services consumption.
They want people spending money on experiences at home.
Right, rather than flying to Paris or Tokyo. Adora is positioning itself as the Chinese benchmark to rival the global brands like Royal Caribbean or Carnival.
So it's cruise plus culture. That's the branding they're pushing.
Exactly. They're trying to create a product that feels like home for Chinese travelers. The food, the entertainment, the language, it's all tailored.
And with this 1 million passenger milestone, they've announced something called the 2026 Adora Service Year.
Which sounds like a corporate slogan.
It does, but what does it actually mean for the guest?
They've broken it down into 3 parts. First, professional empowerment, which is basically better staff training.
Okay.
Second, detail-oriented refinements focusing on execution and consistency. And third, personalized responses.
It sounds like they've proved they can build the hardware. The ship works it, safely carries 1 million people. Now they're focusing on the software, the service side.
That is the classic evolution of a new cruise market. First, get the ships in the water, prove the industrial capability.
Right, build the massive floating city.
Then refine the experience. They want to compete on quality now, not just novelty. And personalized responses is fascinating. because scaling personalization to 5,000 guests a week is the hardest thing in the industry.
It really is. Anyone can build a nice cabin. Not everyone can remember your drink order or your dining preferences.
Exactly.
And speaking of hardware, there is a second ship coming, right? Adora, Flora City.
Yes. And this is where our sources get a little tricky. We have some conflicting intel on the timeline.
Oh, how so?
Well, we know the ship is structurally complete. It's over 90% done.
Okay, so it's sitting in the shipyard, basically built.
Right. But regarding when you can actually get on it and sail, that's a bit confused.
What are the conflicting reports saying?
One update says delivery is scheduled for this year, meaning 2026. But a separate press release mentioned the end of 2026.
That's a pretty big window. That could mean any time from next month to December.
It is. My guess is it's the interior fitting. Supply chains for things like custom furniture and galley equipment can delay a ship even if the hull is completely done.
That makes sense.
But either way, it is coming soon. And the plan is for it to sail international routes out of Guangzhou.
So they are expanding from just domestic cruising to taking Chinese passengers abroad.
It really feels like we are watching the birth of a new giant in the industry. And the government support is key here. The Ministry of Transport is backing the development of cruise home ports.
They see cruising not just as a vacation, but as a major economic driver.
Exactly.
It connects back to the shipyard story in Falmouth, doesn't it? Cruising is heavy industry disguised as leisure. Whether it's building a new ship in China or refitting an old one in the UK, it's about jobs and infrastructure.
That is the perfect way to put it. It's an industrial ecosystem.
So we've looked at Anthem, Bolette, and Adora, 3 very different ships in 3 very different stages of life. What does this all mean for you listening to this deep dive today?
I think the synthesis here is that the passenger experience, the thing you actually pay for, is entirely dependent on these operational investments.
Right.
Whether it's Royal Caribbean spending millions to fix a propulsion unit so you can get to New Zealand, or Fred Olsen installing new carpets so the dining room feels luxe, or Adora training staff to handle personalized requests.
It all looks effortless to the guest. The ship just floats. The food just appears.
Right. But it requires constant, heavy industrial intervention to keep that magic floating. If the azipod breaks, the magic breaks. If the carpets are threadbare, the magic fades.
It makes you appreciate the crew and the engineers a bit more.
It definitely should. And it raises a provocative thought for me as we wrap up.
Let's hear it.
We often judge a cruise by the food or the entertainment or the size of the water slide. We look at the itinerary first. But maybe we should be paying more attention to the age and stage of the hardware.
Meaning what exactly?
Does a ship that's fresh out of dry dock like Bolette offer a fundamentally different value proposition than one that's been running hard for 5 years without a break?
Oh, that's interesting.
When you're booking, maybe you shouldn't just look at the destination. Maybe you should check when the ship was last painted or when the bathrooms were updated.
That is a great tip. A freshly refitted ship is almost like a brand new ship, but usually at a much better price point.
Yeah.
It's all about timing the life cycle.
Exactly. If you can catch a ship right after its spa day, you're winning.
Well, on that note, I think I'm going to go check the dry dock schedules for my next vacation. I want those fresh carpets.
Always a wise move.
Thanks for listening to Cruise News. Visit cruisenews.io to catch up on the latest updates and sign up for free email alerts.